Two unemployed actors, two unemployed actors. They're just between projects.
Welcome back to Two Unemployed Actors. I'm Max. Sam is busy with his survival job this week, but I have a very special guest joining us, Mark Morrissey. Mr. Mark Morrissey is the founder and managing director of Morrissey Management, with over 40 years in the business, managing talent, including the likes of Chris Hemsworth, and is also a producer. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, mate. Lovely to be here.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time. We'll get straight into it. What do you look for in an actor as an agent? Like, what really are you after?
Oh, I'm asked this question often. It's a really difficult one to try and be specific about what you're looking for, because it's a combination. It's not one thing, but it's for each manager and agent, it's always a combination of a whole variety of things. For me, I'm looking at intelligence. I'm looking at commercial ability with them. I'm listening. A lot of the time I'm listening to the voice timbre. When showreels are sent through, sometimes you make a very quick assessment on the person that's approaching the agency based on the other people that you represent, to make sure that you're not setting up an environment that is competitive internally. You assess whether you've got the time, because every new developing, if we're talking new developing actors, a developing actor needs a good 3 to 5 years of development, and that's a long-term investment. So you've got to make sure that you've got the time and the energy to be involved in that. There's so many different qualities,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm lucky enough. Sometimes I can view a self-test, and over all of these years, I can tell really quickly. I can tell in the first 10 seconds whether I'm going to watch the next 10 seconds and the next. So there's a wide variety of reasons why you want to engage with a new actor.
3 to 5 years for an actor's development. That's certainly a commitment, and I can appreciate from your perspective, you're looking for someone who's just as driven and committed to their own development, I guess, rather than investing in someone and then have them sort of walk away and go, look, it's a bit too hard, or I'm going to go somewhere else, or whatever. What does that development look like, or is that specific to each actor?
Well, I'd go back on your previous point. Agreed. They've got to have you've got to see within them the investment that you're about to invest in them. And you certainly don't want somebody that's waiting on the other end of the phone for you to call.
Yeah.
You want somebody that's got as much energy as your agency and the people that are working with you. You want someone that is learning as much as they can about the industry. They're reading books, they're reading scripts that are online, they're working on their various performance tools. You want that, because we're here 8:30 each morning. We finish at 6 p.m, but the phone is still ringing at 7, 8, 9. We've still got to do business with London. We've still got to do business with LA. So our commitment is there. And so we need that. It needs to feel like a partnership. You need to be knowing that you've locked arms together and you're pushing into this industry together. So that commitment you get is vital. That assurance of a partnership, that energy, and also it can get disappointing. There's many calls you make to a client that hasn't got the job, and there's those occasional wonderful phone calls that you go, guess what? And you also need to be able to convey to the client, and the client's got to understand that it is a business. Please don't take it personal. If you don't get it, there's so many reasons why you didn't get it, and it doesn't necessarily come down to performance. Sure, you may have done a really average screen test. You can't afford to do an average screen test. You've got to do a more than good screen test to get a callback. But it could be down to look, height, colouring of hair, colouring of eyes, what the director had in mind, what the producers. It's so varied.
I think one thing we, and when I say we, Sam and I on the podcast have been real proponents of is certainly not waiting for the phone to ring and being engaged in the industry. And I guess to that point, viewing it as a business relationship, as a partnership that you touched on, that you're both working together and it takes both of you to make it work. Do you find you're constantly obviously managing expectations from your talent perspective, but is it also when you're negotiating with production companies and studios, you're constantly managing expectations there, or is it all just like negotiating with terrorists? And
you do have to manage expectations from clients, but I would confidently say that 95% of the clients on Morrissey's have very sound, reasonable expectations. They've all got very clear moral compasses. They know what they're doing. No, on the other side of it, it's not my job to manage a producer's expectations. My job is to get the very best deal and the very best negotiation and the very best terms that I can for my client. It's important that if it's me or anybody else that works in the company, we have a real clear awareness of what the industry is paying, understand what the industry can afford, and then you push harder. Because the more we push, the more we improve it for other actors, not necessarily with us. The more producers look at their budget before they even go out to casting, the better. You know, if an inexperienced producer is going out and just paying scale on 90% of their cast, one hopes that if we've been doing our job and we're negotiating hard with the producer or the casting people to go, that's not acceptable, no, they won't do the job, that the next time a producer comes back, they've done some really good work on their budget and allowed increases for the actors and the client, the creatives.
Okay. And when we talk about up and coming actors, I mean, how would you recommend for actors to get an agent? What would, say they've just graduated or they're returning back to the industry at a later age? They're committed. They looking for every opportunity and creating as many opportunities as they can themselves. What would your recommendation to be to that artist to get representation?
Well, graduates are very different to people returning, because graduates have an audience on their graduation performance that other people don't get. So after 3 years, agents, the industry goes to see their graduation. We're actually walking, driving to be there in the audience and watch them. So the graduates have power for one of the very first times in their life, probably one of the last times in their life, unless they get to a point where they can command power. So the graduates, we're there. We want them to be extraordinary. All we want them to do is just be an absolute wonderful talent, so that we can approach them afterwards and talk to them about representation. Those returning to the industry, if they haven't worked, if they've left it and come back, that's a challenging time for them, because whilst they've been away, other actors have made sure that they've identified themselves in the industry, they've got work, they've built their profile, they've started gaining relationships with casting agents and producers and directors. So it's a very difficult thing to come back into the industry after you've left it, because also there's a human aspect to that, and that is if I'm a casting agent, for instance, and I've got a choice of 3 people that have stayed and in my mind deserve to be cast in something, as opposed to somebody that's chosen to come back, I might choose one of the 3 first, because they've been putting the hard yards in, and there may be a subliminal thing in my mind going, well, you deserve my support.
That's really interesting, yeah, because certainly they've obviously also got more experience just simply by sticking with it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can't work,
Mm.
because we're all after some new interesting way of doing a scene and a new client that intelligently approaches that and is able to execute it. But I'm just saying, from a practical point of view, I would go with people that have been in the industry working, auditioning for the last 5 years, probably over somebody returning.
And I can imagine you've seen more show reels than you can count.
I've seen a couple.
What would be interesting is if you've seen how you've seen them sort of change over the years, and then if you can talk about what sort of stands out for you, what you're looking for in those show reels.
Well, what we've all seen is the show reels have improved in quality and performance. But I will preface this by saying I think it creates an environment that's safe, but that safety of doing a self-test, for instance, and spending 3 hours to get it right, that's not real. That for me, that's not what what should be occurring, because you need to put yourself under the pressure of, if you get that role, you're not going to have 3 hours to prepare for your scene when you walk on a set. You're going to get 1, maybe 2 takes, and you've got to be ready. And that can be very much a cultural shock for the younger actors that have come out that are used to self-tests, getting the lighting right, getting it again and again. It strengthened the audition muscle when there was an environment where actors walked into a casting agent, they sat nervously in the waiting room, they were called in, they were given, okay, go, show me what you've got. And I know it's stressful, but the more you do that, the more it is preparing you for that day on set when you go. Because if you're not up to it, that's a challenge. You're not going to be getting repeat business and people getting you back.
Yeah, spot on. I think because the last 50-worder I had on Home and Away, it doesn't matter whether you're a guestie, whether you're a series regular, you get 2 shots and that's it, moving on. And shooting 3 cameras at once, so you've got to be aware of not just the one camera, but your whole environment. And if you don't turn up prepared, you're not set up for success at all.
And might I say, 50-worders are more stressful than a semi or a regular. They are such a hard gig, because you've got the weight of the production. You've just had so-and-so walk on, do their shots, walk off. Now you're on. If you hold up the crew with your 50-worder, you're already feeling maybe a little less than everyone around you, even though you shouldn't be. You don't want to get it wrong. So I think that's what I'm referring to when I talk about the screen test muscle, that putting yourself through the rigors of the tension that you have to deal with, and coming out on the other side and succeeding. You may not get the job, but you're one step closer to being prepared to walk on that set and do the 50-worder.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I spoke to Australian casting director Anusha Zarakesh, and she brought up an interesting point around self-tests, where because of the nature of the industry at the moment, it just so happens that actors' representation agents are seeing so many more self-tests than before. Before, they weren't even a part of that process. Yeah. Now it's as though they're in the room before they are in effect before the casting director.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, by the way. The flip side of this is that we see all of the reels that are done before they go out, and if they're not up to what we want, we'll go back to our client and say, point, or let's come at it a different way. Go back and do it again. And in that way, we're getting to know our clients better. And it's quite joyous, by the way, when you see self-test after self-test from a client, and they're just just knocking it out of the park, it instills even more belief in you for them. So when you get on the phone to a casting agent or when you're talking about your client, you've just seen their last 3 self-tests. They might not have got the gig, but in your heart of hearts the sort of work they're doing, and they deserve this. And it's a great point of momentum for representatives.
Well, once an actor has an agent, I mean, what is there anything in particular you'd recommend? How they communicate with their agent, or how they engage with their agent, the industry at large, once they've actually achieved representation, rather than just sit on the couch and wait for the phone to ring?
No, it's just common sense though. And it's that common sense of, I don't know, you go to a party and you meet somebody new and interesting. Your common sense knows when you're boring them, when they're not interested, or when you're really engaged and you've got a conversation going. It's probably a terrible reference, but I'm going to use it anyway. And that is, just use your common sense when calling your agent. They might have the time to have a chat. Great. If you want to chat about the industry, yeah. If it gets to the point where you feel like your representative isn't picking up the phone because maybe you are taking up too much of their time, just be sensitive to what it's like when dealing with another person. And they're just another person. They'll be happy to have a chat if they're a chatty person. I'm not, believe it or not, a very chatty person.
Right.
So
I feel very special today then.
Yeah, I'm putting it on for you because it's a podcast and I'm being recorded. But I'm not a particularly chatty person.
Right.
I like to keep things very short and to the point, and talk about the job at hand or the job that's coming up. Whereas, I've got extraordinary people under this roof, Aaron, Fleur, Michael, Charlotte that's joined us. I've got people here that are so wonderful at the talk, which is very important. Some clients, need to have that ongoing engagement.
So some might prefer a coffee chat, a regular coffee chat. Others, it's a short email update. This is what I'm up to. What's happening.
Yeah, my youngest daughter works with me in my production company, and she knows where I'm at when I'm sending her one-word email responses.
It's like a text message.
Kinda.
That's brilliant. And look, many actors in Australia, they'll reach a stage, and it'll be a stage that's unique to them in terms of timing. But should I go to LA? Should I look for a representation in LA? They might be getting, say, 3 times a year an opportunity to walk on set in Australia with 50 worders or in the theatre or something, independent theatre. What would your recommendation be to that young actor, that more established actor?
Yeah, okay. It's an old tired cliche I've used, but you only really attend a party that you're invited to. And that kind of makes sense, because if you're an actor, if you're prepared to go there and stand in line with thousands of others in that same line, fine. If you feel like you've got that, whatever it's going to take to jump across that line and be successful, great. I don't encourage it until we are all on the same page that you're ready now for the discussion. Any client, I'm going through it right now, actually. I'm flying with a client to LA in a week's time, a week and a half's time. But prior to this client going there, I'm setting up the meetings for the client. And I'm very thankful that a lot of the people receiving my emails, if they see an email from me, they know that it's probably a significant client that's going to do well. And
they're vetted and prepared, and
yeah. Yeah, but I will say the environment over there has changed. It's very, very difficult. Some of them aren't back in their offices yet.
Right.
I'm being asked to do meetings in coffee shops as opposed to offices. I'm being asked to do individual meetings as opposed to what I'm used to, which is a team or a group
Yeah.
meeting. Um, and I think um, there's still some healing time needed after COVID for people to get back into a new normal and working out how to do business in the future. Going over there at the moment, if the response I'm working through at the moment is any indication, I would strongly, strongly be recommending actors to wait until they have a powerful body of work before making that step, because you only really get one chance.
Yeah.
That's the other thing people aren't aware of. You get, if you either you do it personally or you do it through your circle of influence, or you get your agent to do it, to reach out to LA. If you get a no, it's really hard to get a second no in 1, 2, 3 years' time. It's really, really difficult.
That's
The
point.
idea, if you're clever, is wait until you've got a heat and a buzz around you, or the project that you're in, and that's the time to strike.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, uh, is there something that you think US casting directors are really looking for at the moment that they weren't previously? Or is it same old, same old?
Obviously, diverse casting.
Right.
You know, that has wonderfully changed and added so much to all of our lives. What are they looking for? Overseas, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for a commitment. They don't want people saying, I'm definitely going to be available, not be available. You're going to have to make sure you get everything in place, all your ducks in a row, and you're going to make sure your visa's in place, that you've saved up enough money, that if they say, we want you to come over for a period of time, you can afford to do it. You once you have engaged representative over there, you want to keep them engaged, invested in you. So if you're not there, the more work that you're doing back home, that they're able to see, the better. Making sure your self-tests for them are the very best you can possibly do. Making sure the accent, the conversation about accents, it's such a subtle one, because all it takes is one word in a 5-minute monologue to not be quite right, and it jars with Americans, and you know, they're not looking to make excuses. Like, just give me the best work.
And I think one thing we're hearing from an acting perspective is there's no, oh, that person's perfect for the role, but we'll work with them on the accent. It's we want them to be ready now. We don't want to have to hold the hand.
Look, no, there's very little hand holding, because the competition over there is so stiff. There's so much to choose from. So ideally, I say to people, just try and make a list of all the reasons why they would say no to you, and eliminate those. If you haven't got a passport, if you haven't got your visa in place, don't do it yet. Yes, you can get sponsorship, but I don't think anyone understands how difficult the process is to get someone to sponsor you. It is rigorous, and it's like 2 or 3 days of somebody's work full time just to get you a sponsorship deal. So just get it as right as, if you've gone to this extent, don't do something half-assed. Make sure you get it right.
Make it count.
Yeah.
Just lastly, the Australian industry is looking pretty good at the moment, considering COVID. And I say that from an acting perspective, looking at the investment in industry with the streamers as well as the studios. We're hearing talks of another studio, near Coffs Harbour, one in Cairns, studio facilities. I mean, are you seeing that too, or am I just wishful thinking, ever the optimist as an actor?
No, there was really good reason to be optimistic. Pre to when COVID really took place here, we were killing it, and that comes down to producers and crews showing the rest of the world how to shoot during a pandemic. For Christ's sake, hats off to these people that did it. It was extraordinary. And yes, we had a lot of work that was shooting down here. I think it's best to be practical about it, though. A producer with a project will go wherever the exchange rate is the best, and hopefully they talk English because that helps in communication between crew and producers, and generally what sort of rebates they're going to get out of that country to help their bottom dollar. So it might be Australia next week, and it might be Croatia the week after, or Budapest the week after that. It just depends on where the deal is the best. But down here, the attractive quality is being able to enjoy the countryside when you're not shooting, which is fabulous. It's English speaking. Our crews, you can significantly get more bang for your buck from our creative crews. They kill it on a global basis. Our crews are second to none, man.
That's great.
You have Americans calling up, going, "I cannot believe what getting done by a third of the crew." So
that's great value for them. Yeah,
there's extraordinary creatives out there that just get the stuff done. Our actors can do great accents, and we think on our feet. We're very light on our feet. Which it just plays again towards improvisational or being able to cope with the situation. In the future, we may flatten out a little bit, but I can say that this year, January, February, March, has started off like a bullet. No, it's a bad phrase. Just started off so fast. And,
yeah, that's great.
And we're busy. There's a lot of castings taking place. We're busy.
That's great. Considering what we've been through, especially as actors who, you fall between the gaps. It's not like you can say to the government, we've had 12 months of consistent income and here you can see it's dropped, help me out. It's gig to gig, the original gig economy.
Yeah, it is.
So that's great to hear that we're firing on all cylinders this year already. So Mark Morrissey, thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Max. Thanks for your time.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss more tips and tricks here at Two Unemployed Actors.
Two unemployed actors.